Let's preview the Carolina Panthers pregame on this radio station. Bobby will be traveling again as our Cowboys insider. I'm Sean Sharif. It's going down on Sunday with a noon kickoff with Brad Sham and Babe Laufenberg. And we have an ESPN insider. David Newton has been covering Carolina for the four-letter for a long time. He is now joining us on the home of the Cowboys via the D&M Leasing Hotline. Good morning, David. How are you?
Good morning. I feel like I ought to start this off with buckle up.
Rico, that's right. And Schottenheimer responded and said, don't worry, we're buckled. But behind the scenes, Schottenheimer really loves Rico Dowdle. And he was, Bobby, you were there in the press conference, right?
Yeah, right after he walked out of his press conference, Clarence Hill was showing him highlights. It's like, hey, Rico went for over 200, and he lit up. He was clearly very, very thrilled for him. But, it's funny, with that thing being a topic this week, I'm curious, David, right out of the gate, everybody's been framed as like, oh, this trash talk from Rico Dowdle. I didn't feel like he was like really trash talk. I thought he was just like saying, hey, I'm going back to see my guys. It was more just kind of like a wink to like his former family in essence.
Yeah, I didn't look at it as trash talk at all. I just thought that was Rico being Rico, just saying, hey, I got some game and you got to be ready for it. And we got some game. I don't think he was just meaning him. He just thinks it's going to be a physical game, and the Cowboys got to be ready for that. And I think that was what Schottenheimer's response was. We're expecting that.
I think I have forgotten, because I'm putting him in my fantasy lineup, but I think we have forgotten that Chuba is still the one there, right? How are they splitting up the carries?
Well, that'll be the interesting part, because right now Chuba is still you don't know if he's going to play or not. He did come out and work on the side yesterday, and we'll wait to see if he does any more today. I don't think they feel like they have to rush him back. Originally, like last Friday, Dave Canales said that Chuba will not play, but he's listed more as day-to-day. They don't feel it's a serious thing. The feeling I got last Friday was that, hey, he probably could play this week. But what Rico did, maybe they'll take a different look at it and not try to rush him back. Either way, I think you'll see Chuba start, or maybe they may start off the game with both backs in there. They've played both backs in there at the same time before. How they'll do the reps, nobody has a clue right now. I mean, I do know that the Canales love the physical nature, the way that Rico finished up some of his runs, and I don't know if it's because of the calf injury that Chuba hasn't been able to do that. I mean, Rico is a little faster, has gotten more burst, probably can get on the outside a little better. Chuba's better, probably right up the middle. So I think Dave Canales kind of summed it up best. He said, right now I can look at my call list when he's calling the plays, and it doesn't matter what I call, both backs can do it.
So, David, at the end of last year, I remember Carolina felt like a team on the rise, that it was starting to click for Bryce a little bit. Bobby, especially, very high on Bryce and what he was doing. Where does that stand now? Does it still feel like they're on the rise? Have they kind of tapered off or taken a step back with that momentum from the end of last season?
Good question. I thought after they, in week 3 when they beat Atlanta with 30-0, I was like, well, this team is starting to arrive, and then they just get waxed the next week, and then they come back and fall down 17-0 to Miami, and really Miami, there's no way they should have lost that game. They could have thrown the ball to the Waddle or their tight end all day, and probably Tua could have had probably 400 yards passing easy, but they tried to run the ball and kind of back down and took the pedal off the metal, I guess, a little bit, and allowed Carolina to get back in the game, and Carolina took advantage of it. And I think that was a big step for them, because you haven't really seen Bryce Young lead a team from behind and make that type of a statement. So I think that was key for them, and whether that carries forward, I just don't know, because again, they followed up the Atlanta win with laid an egg. So we'll just have to wait and see right now. The good news for the Panthers probably is Dallas's defense, 32nd in the league.
Yeah.
And so, Panthers have been there. They were the worst defense in the league last year, and they are improving, and they're getting some players back and starting to play better. But again, I thought that would be the case against Miami, which I didn't think Miami really was a great offensive team. And for the first quarter and a half, they looked like they couldn't be stopped. So we'll just have to wait and see on this one.
Panthers insider David Newton from ESPN joining us here on 105 Through the Fan. David, it feels like I see some of the sentiment on social media, for instance. It feels like there is this sense of just like, all right, Bryce, it's time. Like you've got to start playing up to your draft position. And he was a guy, it felt like when he was coming out, was like, all right, that's the safe plug-and-play pro-ready starter. If you're ever going to get one, that's Bryce Young. But it feels like it's been a real struggle for him. Where do things stand right now in terms of the level of confidence for Carolina fans or the organization itself in terms of Bryce Young becoming what they thought he could be?
I think it's still kind of the team in general believes in Bryce. The team believes that his confidence has never wavered through all the struggles he's had. But again, his overall record is not very good. And until yesterday, this past Sunday, he was like 1-17 in games where they've been behind by that many points, and he's committed a turnover. So he's still in that process of he's got to get it all together. He can't make mistakes. I mean, I actually thought maybe that Canales was going to be looking towards benching him after he was down, 17-0 with 2 turnovers, because when he's had a couple of turnovers 3 times this year he's had in the first half, it hasn't gone well for them. So he's got to cut back on the turnovers and continue to play within himself. But having that running game with Chuba and Rico and that to lean on, and that was really key last year for him to lean on Chuba last year. So that really helped, help take the pressure off him, and so he could just do his thing. So he's got some more talent at receiver too. If you get, T-Mac is playing well, not great, but well. But for a rookie, sometimes that's good enough because rookie receivers often struggle. If he can get Xavier Legette to play up to the level they think he can, that's really going to make this I won't say two-headed monster, but it'll really give him a lot more balance, a lot more options. And he started to show some signs of that last week.
So when it comes to the Cowboys, a lot of people have felt like against this secondary, as long as a quarterback has time back there and knows what they're looking at, you can pick them apart. That's generally been the thought process. That's why Russell Wilson had so much success. Is Bryce a guy who, when he struggles, it's because the Panthers aren't able to protect him, and when pressure starts getting in his face, he starts panicking? Or is this, man, sometimes he's standing back there and he's just looking at the wrong thing and throws it into somewhere he's not supposed to?
Yeah, when the pressure can play a factor with him. If you look at last week's game, if you saw the fumble in the first quarter, I mean, he saw the defender bearing down on him and looked like he just freaked out and dropped the ball. And then when he threw the interception, that was pressure coming right up the middle on him. So I think that got him out of his comfort zone. I actually asked Canales about that a little bit, and he admitted, he said, yeah, Bryce has got to stay under control and not get shaken by those moments. So I really feel like that it's going to be, in large part depending on what this offensive line can do to give him the time. And I think, again, that goes back to the running game. If they can start off running and get a little rhythm there, then that's going to keep the Cowboys from putting the rush on. But if they can get pressure on him, that's been the one thing that's kind of made him make mistakes over the last, I guess, 3 years.
David, give us the Panthers' strength and their weakness.
Wow, because the strengths coming into the season to me was offensive line and wide receiver. But the injuries have really taken their toll there. I think the line started to settle down some last week, but they're still a little concerned about up the middle because they are playing with the backup center. They are playing with their third, right guard. So that has had an impact. And again, the receiver situation, they traded away, probably their second or third, probably their second best actually possession receiver in Adam Thielen. T-Mac played well again, but Legette's really, really struggled, and he missed a couple of games too with the hamstring injuries. I think those still can be a strength. If you go to the weaknesses, I think it's the pass rush. They finally got some this past week, and they need to get more of that because they had only 2 sacks coming into the game, and I think they got 3 or so in that game, or 4 maybe in that game. So that getting that back would be a strength. So maybe you just got to say the running game right now, because when they get that going like they did last week, they're a pretty dangerous team.
David, when you look at your first round draft pick this year, Tetairoa McMillan, who was, by all accounts, that was the guy Dallas wanted. They had targeted, and they knew he likely wasn't going to fall to them. And when he didn't, then they pivoted to Tyler Booker. But what kind of an impact already is Tetairoa McMillan making, and what kind of a player does he present in terms of right now as a rookie? What kind of threat does he pose to the Cowboys secondary? He
is a guy that he gets open. He runs great routes, great hands. he's kind of known for those one-handed catches in college, and he hasn't really done that here. He's been really close on a couple, but I think that's one of the strengths too. And I just think he's just a reliable, dependable guy. He doesn't create a great amount of separation, but he doesn't have to because he's got such good hands, and he'll go over the middle and make the tough catch. So he and Bryce were a little off the last few weeks before this past game. They got back on target a little bit this past week, but I don't think you've seen the full chemistry that we've seen in practice in the game yet. And I think a part of that is because they've struggled with injuries on the offensive line, and because the Gets struggled and allowed teams to move their coverage over to take T-Mac out of the game. So, but to me, he's a guy that's going to be a star in this league. I mean, he's got all the tools to be great. I mean, you guys have seen some great ones. You got a few right now on your roster, although one's banged up. And I'm not going to say he's going to be a Hall of Fame or anything, but I think he's got the tools to be really good.
David Newton, Panthers insider, joining us from ESPN on the D&M Leasing Hotline here on Shan and RJ. What do you think we should expect from Clowney this year since you had him last year?
Oh, wow. He's a guy I think still can pressure the quarterback. And last year is probably not a fair year to judge him on, because I grew up watching him play in high school. Even actually, I saw him in junior high. He actually ended my son's football career. Broke 3 bones in his back when he hit him from behind in the 9th grade playing JV. He shouldn't have been playing JV, but that was their first year of school, and they have to have a year of JV, so he should have been on the varsity, but they didn't have a varsity that year. No, he literally was a man among boys there, and so he's still got some juice, I think. It's just a matter of how they use him. I think he's probably best suited as a third down pass rush situational type player. I don't think he's an every down player anymore. But again, I think you put him in the right situation and get the right matchups. He's a guy that can still strike fear in you.
David, do you feel like this is going to be a close game? Cowboy blowout? Carolina getting the W? What's your feel on this?
I have not really had a good feel for this Carolina team all season, again, because there are just so many unknowns, and that you really never got to see them in training camp play much in the preseason game because they didn't play their starters. And then in the first 5 games, it's just been such a roller coaster, where they played great against Atlanta. They played like dogs the first 2 games, and then the game after that. I mean, they were 1-3, and it looked like they were headed for 1-4 last week and got things turned around. So I still think it's a work in progress. They're still trying to find their identity and what they want to be. I think last week with the comeback was a little more what they wanted to be with the power running game and Bryce not having to carry him. But again, Miami's run defense was hard. I mean, if you think that the Dallas defense is bad, Miami's run defense it reminded me of watching the Panthers run defense last year and even early this season. They couldn't stop anybody. I mean, Rico was like, even went in there to start the second half and asked for a certain play to be called, and they called it and they ran it for 53 yards. So I don't want to read too much into what that offense is based on that game, because again, Miami, I just think it was so bad. They were allowing 158 yards a game coming into the game. So, I mean, the fact that Rico got 206 doesn't seem like a big deal in a lot of ways, because they couldn't stop anybody before they came in here. So, again, Dallas is a little better against the run. I think they rank 21, 23, 24, somewhere in that area. And stopping the run, that's not great. But, I think that if they can shut down the run and put all the pressure on Bryce, I think that'll be a real key for what they want to do and their success they want to have.
Great stuff, David. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game and the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
David Newton here on the home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.